It's my pleasure to welcome you to a new week. I'm Coach Raphael. There is a part of Nigeria today where the government no longer exists in real terms. No police, no soldiers, no law. Some villages in the north, people now live under the rule of armed groups. They live under the rule of terrorists. These terrorists don't just attack. They organize, control, and even collect levies like a local council. Citizens, especially farmers, now pay the money to avoid being killed. That's the level of fear and failure we are dealing with. It means the Nigerian state has lost its power in these areas. It means terrorists now play the role of government. One of those areas is Malam Karanti, a quiet farming village in the Kukua local government area of Borno State. Recently, the village faced a horror that should shake any nation to its core. More than 50 farmers were killed, butchered by fighters from ISWAP. The ISWAP, the Islamic State West African province. These men did not come to rob food or chase people out. No, they came to kill, and they did so calmly and up close. According to survivors, the attackers accused the villagers of secretly supporting Boko Haram, a rival terrorist group. That accusation was enough to line up innocent men and slaughter them like animals. And some were abducted, many were hacked down in their farms. A survivor said he ran for his life because he couldn't just wait for his turn to die. Now, these farmers were doing the one thing Nigeria claims to want more of: agriculture, growing food, the diversification of Nigeria's economy. For years, the government has said we must stop depending on oil and turn to agriculture. But how can that dream work if the farmers themselves are being killed in their own fields? In this country, farming is becoming a deadly job. What happened in Malam Karanti is not an isolated case. We've had several cases of that. Just a few months ago, over 40 farmers were murdered in another Borno village called Damba. The killings keep happening, but they no longer make big news. Nigerians are slowly becoming dumb and numb to death. What makes the Malam Karanti massacre even harder to swallow is where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was at the time it happened. He was in Rome, attending the installation of Mass of Pope Leo XIV.
For the camera. Nigeria for 4 years. Yes, Abuja. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm very proud to receive you. I've seen you telling of the English lecture.
They said we should move back once. Wants to do the introductions.
Sei tu il mio Dio e ti rendo grazie. Sei il mio Dio e ti esalto. Prego il volunte.
While families were digging shallow graves and trying to identify the bodies of their loved ones, the Nigerian president was abroad, dressed in a clean, stylish suit, taking photos and smiling among world leaders. He was thousands of kilometers away from the pain of his people. This kind of situation raises difficult questions. Nobody is saying a president should not travel. Of course, this is part of his diplomatic core duties in a world like this. Diplomacy is part of leadership, but the timing of that trip was hard to understand. It came during one of the darkest moments for people who depend on him for protection. When your citizens are being killed like this, a handshake in Europe can feel like a slap at home. People are mourning. They mourned and they are still mourning. And in that moment, they needed their leader to stand with them, even if just in a word or in visible action. But what they saw instead was distance, silence, and business as usual. Things became even more awkward when pictures surfaced of President Tinubu meeting two major Nigerian political figures in Rome. Mr. Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate, and former IPT state governor, Kayode Fayemi. Fayemi had spotted Tinubu sitting among other leaders and called Obi to join him in greeting the president. They exchanged warm words and laughter. Tinubu, known for his wit, joked about being the head of the Nigerian delegation. Obi smiled and responded with light-hearted agreement. Now, under normal circumstances, this kind of encounter between political rivals would be celebrated, of course. It shows maturity, it shows calmness, it shows the ability to put faith and country above politics. But these were not normal times. Back home here in Nigeria, the blood of farmers was still fresh on the ground. The same country that was sending delegates to Vatican events was unable to protect its people from machetes and bullets. The same citizens who paid taxes to a government were now forced to pay protection money to terrorists, to bandits, and even that could not save them. And so, what could have been a proud diplomatic moment instead filled pity. While Nigeria's elite were bonded in Rome, the people were dying in villages. While leaders were sitting in holy halls, the fields of Borno, fields of Kaduna, the fields of other states in the north were covered in blood. The contrast was painful. It was as if there were two separate countries. One dressed in robes, taking photos under golden light, the other buried in dust, struggling to survive without hope or help. This isn't just a story about travel. It is a story about leadership. A leader must be present when it matters most, not just physically, but emotionally, symbolically, and in action. It is not enough to speak on agriculture at summits when farmers are being slaughtered back home. It is not enough to meet global figures while your citizens can't find safety. It is not enough to promise food, security when the hands that grow that very food are being chopped off by terrorists and bandits. Right now, the Nigerian government is losing the trust of those it should protect. Yes, when people begin to pay terrorists for peace, it means the state has failed them. President Tinubu has lost part of his sovereignty. That is a real tragedy. Not just the deaths, but the silence that follows. If this continues, the people will stop expecting anything from their leaders at all. And that is when the country truly breaks. That is when Nigeria will fall completely. Now, Nigeria cannot afford to operate like this, with power looking away while pain grows at home. The Pope's installation was a moment of global celebration, yes, undisputable. But the bigger test for Nigerian leadership is here in Borno, in Zamfara, in Plateau State, in every place where people sleep with fear and wake up in grief. President Tinubu has the opportunity to change this pattern. He has He can choose presence over absence. He can choose action over optics. He can choose urgency over routine. The Vatican already has a shepherd in the person of Pope Leo XIV, but Nigeria is still waiting for hers. And no matter how fine the suits or how grand the stages abroad, the real work, the most important work is here in Nigeria. Because at the end of the day, it is not about Rome. Rome is thousands of kilometers away from Nigeria. It is about the lives that keep being lost while the cameras flash elsewhere. It is about restoring leadership where it has disappeared. And most of all, it is about reminding the Nigerian people that their lives matter, not just to God, but to their government too. Peace to Nigeria. You're watching Diaspora Digital Media. If you like my video, do not hesitate to hit the like button, make your comments, share this video, and subscribe to Diaspora Digital Media, our channel on YouTube. I am Coach Raphael. See you next time.